What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And this one will break down what's going on with NIO stock and what you should be watching for moving forward. I'm also going to talk about what's going on with the data that's dropping for tomorrow. That's going to be very important. And all of this data and how the news we're seeing right now is going to affect NIO, Tesla, SPY, and the QQQ for tomorrow. But before I break anything down about all of this information, before I talk about what's going on with NIO stock, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends very soon, so check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So in the morning, NIO got this very nice pop with the whole market. The market ended up popping after we got the CPI report, which was bullish for the markets. Then NIO cooled off a bit, came right back down to get a back test before bouncing right back up and starting to push up as the day went on, holding up quite nicely, closing up 3.24%. NIO is still looking quite nice. But the question is, why did NIO pop like this? Why did the market hold up nicely? That's because the CPI report came out today and it was quite bullish overall. Let me break down the numbers just very briefly before I talk about the future. So the data came out before the market opened. CPI year over year was only 3%. We expected it to be right here 3.2%. We got 3% anyway, so lower than expected CPI year over year. Why is that good? Because first off, it's better for the economy, it's better for everyday Americans. That's one factor. Then it also de-incentivizes the Fed from being more hawkish and to tighten on monetary policy. The Fed is less likely to be more restrictive if we get lower CPI, lower inflation, and that is good for the stock market. Then we had core CPI that came out year over year, 4.8%. Would you look at that? That is lower than the expectation of 5%. We expected 5% core CPI. We got 4.8%, bullish for the markets once again. Month over month, core CPI was up only 0.2% compared to the previous month. That is, once again, guys, lower than the forecast of 0.3%. We expected 0.3% to be the increase. We ended up getting 0.2%. That's once again bullish. And CPI alone is once again 0.2%. That is very, very close to the forecast anyways. So most of the data was lower than expected. The market loved it. That's some good news for us. I also wanted to add that if you don't know what core CPI is, that's just inflation without food and energy, because the Fed's policies do not directly impact those things. And then after that, we had some Fed speakers that didn't really cause too much volatility. Overall, the market held up quite nicely. We did see a slight pullback, just a little bit into it, but it wasn't that bad. And the market bounced right back up and closed quite green. SPY was up, Tesla closed green. Tesla was actually a little bit weak because of the news, but overall, QQQ held up. NIO held up nicely as well. Now, for tomorrow, we have something similar dropping. We have the PPI report coming out. This is like CPI, except from the producer side. And this is typically a very, very good indicator of what CPI will be. So it's a very, very good early indicator of CPI. And if it's lower than expected, that's going to be good for the stock market. So it's like another inflationary measure, basically. We want this to be 0.1% up. If we get it very close to the previous report or very close to the forecast, it's going to be bullish. Then we have core PPI month over month. We want this to be 0.1%. If it's something around there, that's going to be good. Year over year, we want PPI to be around 0.4%. If it's around there or lower, that's bullish. And then core PPI, we want this to be around 2.6%. Hopefully, it's around there as well. So we're going to be watching out for that. PPI is going to be very important. The Fed looks at that as well. On top of this, we also have initial jobless claims coming out. We want this number to be high. So the market wants higher unemployment, right? We want to see more unemployment. We want more jobless claims. We want more and more people to be, once again, filing for unemployment, unfortunately. Now, am I saying it's a good thing? To some extent, it's not really a good thing at all, right? We don't want anyone to suffer. I want the best for as many people as possible. But in the eyes of the stock market, it's different because the market wants more unemployment because it de-incentivizes the Fed to be hawkish. That's what the Fed is after, to bring core CPI down, to slow down aggregates demand. That's what the Fed wants, and that's why the market is going to respond positively to higher unemployment or more initial jobless claims. Watch that very carefully. All right, so with that said, we're going to be watching this data. It's dropping at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. All the data together is dropping out. Initial jobless claims in the PPI numbers. 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, which is the New York Stock Exchange time. 5:30 a.m. for people like me in the Pacific Coast. So watch all this data carefully, it's going to affect how the market opens. Then all this data will affect how the market moves too, so be on the lookout for all of it. Now, I also want to add that we have earnings coming out as well. We have Delta, Progressive, PepsiCo, and just a couple of others for Thursday. And for Friday, we have big earnings coming out. We have JP Morgan Chase, Citigroup, Wells Fargo, and BlackRock. It's a big one. So be ready for all these big earnings coming out over the next couple of days, especially on Friday. Now, for the news, I just wanted to mention that this news came out for NIO. Basically, NIO is once again returning to glory. Its EV sales are set to accelerate. This is once again very awesome news, as many analysts at JP Morgan are expecting 15,000 NIO deliveries in July. That is super, super bullish. If NIO gets something like that, that's going to be very bullish for the share price. We could see NIO pump quite nicely, but we're just about 2.5 weeks away before the stat drops for the deliveries for July. So just be patient for that. On top of this, NIO has marked a milestone with Navigate on Pilot ADAS, now available in Beijing. This is once again some good news for them, as they're once again working very hard to improve their technology. And on a daily basis, they're going to be doing this to achieve more advanced driver assist systems improvements. So it's very, very important to note this. They're improving on a daily basis, and it makes me very excited for what they're trying to do. NOP Plus is like the Tesla FSD like advanced driver assist software based on NIO's next gen. If you guys didn't know that, that is once again good news for them, and I'm very impressed with what they're doing. There's also this news that came out on NIO's Twitter page. NIO talked about how the ET5 and EL7 have achieved an outstanding performance with the 2023 Euro NCAP testing standards, winning both medals and achieving 5 stars. Once again, very, very awesome. I'm very proud of NIO, and I can't wait to see how they improve. Now, to add on to this, we have some analysts right over here. Morgan Stanley has come out and they're saying that they're giving NIO another overweight rating, basically saying that NIO is going to outperform the markets. And much of this data does not matter as much for the remainder of the week, because remember, we're going to be reacting to what happens with the PPI report for Thursday. That's going to affect NIO more. And then for Friday, we have the big bank earnings. That's going to have a big effect on NIO. I don't think this data matters that much. Historically, we tend to be a little slow on Thursdays and we tend to do better on Fridays. We'll have to wait and see if that happens, just to be safe. When it comes to the short interest, we did see a big increase. We saw about 15 million NIO shares shorted just a couple of days ago. So be on the lookout for all of this data. It's all worth mentioning, and we will see what happens moving forward. Anyways, to add on to this, we had 60 million volume, pretty good stuff for NIO. Now let's break down the technicals, what's going on with the chart. So for NIO, we got a nice pop after CPI came out. We dumped a little bit, got a backtest and a nice bounce, and still held up quite nicely. Looking at the drawings, we have this resistance around this 11.2 area. If we get above it, I think this thing could get very close to 11.5. That's going to be the next level. If we get some good PPI numbers, I just mentioned what that means, basically lower than expected PPI, lower than expected inflationary numbers for tomorrow. If we get that, that's going to be bullish, but we simultaneously need to get initial jobless claims a little bit higher than expected too. So weakness in the job sector and weakness in inflation basically is what we want to see. That's going to suggest the market's going to go up. If that's the case, we could see NIO go to 11.5. If we get bad data tomorrow, so I'm going to refer to once again, what I just said as bad data, which would be high inflation and strength in the job sector or low jobless claims, right? So if we get bad data, NIO is going to come down, most likely to retest 10.99. If it breaks below that, watch 10.8, 10.71, then 10.5 as supports if it actually ends up breaking down like that. So watch these levels carefully. It depends on the data. I can't really predict it, so it's going to be kind of tricky. From a technical standpoint, it's looking strong, so there's a good chance it's going to try to break above 11.22. But just to be safe, watch the data for confirmation. It is looking more bullish from a technical standpoint. It looks like NIO is trying to form like a triangle right here and try to push up to like 11.5 tomorrow. But just to be safe, watch the data for confirmation. On SPY, if we get good data, watch 447.5 as resistance. If it manages to break this, it's going to push up to 448.7, then potentially 450. If we get bad data, we could see SPY come all the way down to 444.69, 443.76, and if these levels break, it's going to fill the gap all the way down to 442. But specifically, 444 is going to be my pivot point. If that breaks, it's going to come down to 442 in my opinion. So we're going to be watching these levels carefully. There's also this imbalance down here on like 443. I'm not sure what the data is going to give us, so watch it very carefully. From a technical standpoint, it's getting very tight, so we're going to be seeing a big move. Basically, you could draw out like your trend lines like this, It's getting tighter and tighter and tighter. I'm going to be anticipating a big move during the pre-market tomorrow, depending on initial jobless claims. So please be ready for that. That's going to be worth mentioning. That's going to be worth noting. Please be prepared. Now, when it comes to something else like Tesla, let me just briefly go over this. If we're bullish on Tesla tomorrow after good data, we're going to be seeing Tesla retest 275. If it breaks, 277 could come. If it's bad data, Tesla's going to retest 270. It's going to end up sinking down to 268. Personally, guys, Tesla's looking kind of weak right now. I mean, it didn't really hold these levels nicely. It tried to. It just got lots of bad news, unfortunately, and we're seeing a lot of dark volume on it. There's this gap down here around this like 269 level. There's a chance that if Tesla breaks below support at 270, we're going to come all the way down to like 268 and fill this gap down here at 269. The odds do favor Tesla weakening a bit, but just to be safe, we'll see what the news causes and the data for tomorrow. For the triple Q, the QQQ, the NASDAQ, you want to see the market push up? We want some good data. We want to see this thing break to the upside. We need good data to push this thing to 374. If that breaks, watch 375. And above that, 377 could come. If we get bad data, it's going to come all the way down to 371 potentially. If that fails, let's watch 370 as a very important level. If that breaks, we're going to be watching this imbalance around 369, and 368 is going to be the next major support. Below that comes 367.23, then potentially 366. And now I'm not counting on that to drop or this to drop very hard, but just to be safe, we're going to have to wait and see what the data causes for tomorrow. Jobless claims is going to be very important. All right, guys, so for NIO, compared to the market, NIO looks strong. We have a nice bullish setup. The odds do favor upside, but just to be safe, watch the data for tomorrow and watch the specific levels I called out. All right, thank you for listening. Have a great day. Remain calm, cool, and collected, and I'll see you guys in the next one. NIO to the moon as the long term is still very bright, and peace out.